What's the worst way you can imagine dying? Whatever you're thinking, I can almost guarantee it's not as horrific as what happened to Truls Hellevik on November the 5th, 1983. His death was so gruesome, so unimaginable, that it led to a complete overhaul of diving safety regulations. Are you ready to hear about the most brutal death in history? Picture this: a cold, unforgiving morning on the North Sea. The Byford Dolphin rig looms over the churning waters, a steel giant in a world of constant danger. Here, brave men risk their lives daily, diving to crushing depths to maintain underwater structures. Can you imagine the pressure they face, both literal and figurative? On this fateful day, 6 experienced crew members prepared for what they thought was just another routine dive. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐤, Roy Lucas, Bjørn Bergersen, Truls Hellevik, William Crammond, and Martin Saunders, each an expert in their field, dedicated to their perilous work. But as they suited up, none of them could have known the horror that awaited. What started as a normal day would soon turn into a nightmare that would change diving history forever. Imagine yourself inside the pressurized chamber of the Byford Dolphin rig. The air feels thick, almost humid, as you breathe in a carefully controlled mix of gases. The constant hum of machinery surrounds you, a reminder of the delicate balance keeping you alive at these extreme depths. This is the world of saturation diving, where every breath, every movement is a calculated risk. As the divers prepare for their shift, there's a palpable tension in the air. They've done this countless times before, but the danger never truly fades. The diving bell, their lifeline to the outside world, sits ready to transport them to the ocean floor. But today, something is different. A small oversight, a tiny mistake, is about to unleash a catastrophe beyond imagination. The procedure for releasing the diving bell is complex, requiring multiple safety checks. Each step is crucial, designed to protect the divers from the crushing pressure difference between their artificial environment and the world outside. But in a moment of distraction, or perhaps overconfidence, a critical error occurs. One of the dive tenders prematurely opens the clamp before the chamber doors are fully secured. In an instant, the world explodes. The sudden release of pressure is like a bomb going off. 9 atmospheres of pressure violently escape through a tiny opening, creating a force so powerful it defies comprehension. The diving bell is torn away from the rig, launched like a missile by the escaping air. Inside the chamber, the effect is even more devastating. Can you imagine the terror in those final seconds? The deafening roar of escaping air, the violent shaking of the chamber, the realization that something has gone horribly wrong. For the divers inside, there is no time to react, no chance to save themselves. The aftermath is chaos. Alarms blare across the rig as shocked crew members struggle to comprehend what's happened. Emergency procedures kick in, but for most, it's already too late. The scene that greets the first responders is beyond nightmarish, a tableau of destruction that will haunt them for years to come. As the dust settles and the full extent of the tragedy becomes clear, a grim reality emerges. Of the 6 men involved in the incident, only 1 has survived. But who, and in what condition? The Byford Dolphin incident has just become one of the most horrific accidents in diving history, a stark reminder of the unforgiving nature of the deep. As the chaos unfolded on the Byford Dolphin rig, one man's fate would become a gruesome testament to the power of explosive decompression. Truls Hellevik, an experienced diver found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. Standing directly in front of the chamber door when disaster struck, Hellevik's body was about to endure forces beyond imagination. Picture this: a pressure difference of 8 atmospheres released in an instant. The air inside the chamber, once a lifeline, became a deadly weapon. Hellevik's body, caught in this maelstrom, was subjected to forces so extreme they defy comprehension. In a fraction of a second, his body was forced through a gap barely 60 centimeters wide. The physics of what happened next are both fascinating and horrifying. The sudden drop in pressure caused the gases in Hellevik's body to expand rapidly. Imagine a balloon inflating in the blink of an eye, but instead of rubber, it's human flesh and bone. The result was catastrophic. Hellevik's body, unable to withstand these extreme forces, literally exploded. His remains were scattered across the chamber and beyond, painting a nightmarish scene for those who would later investigate. But the true extent of the damage was even more shocking than anyone could have anticipated. In a grim twist that sounds more like something from a horror movie than reality, Hellevik's internal organs were found up to 10 meters away from where he died. Can you imagine the shock of the rescue team stumbling upon such a scene? It's a sight that would haunt them for years to come. Forensic pathologists tasked with piecing together this tragic puzzle made a chilling discovery. Hellevik had suffered what they termed a bisection of the thoracoabdominal cavity. In simpler terms, his body had been literally torn apart. Nearly all of his internal organs had been violently expelled, leaving behind only his trachea and a small section of small intestine. The psychological impact on the rig workers and rescue team was profound. These were men accustomed to danger, to the harsh realities of life at sea. But nothing could have prepared them for the scene they encountered that day. The chaos, the devastation, the sheer impossibility of what they were seeing. It was enough to shake even the most hardened professionals to their core. Imagine being one of those first responders. You've trained for emergencies, you've dealt with accidents before, but how do you process something like this? How do you come to terms with the fact that a colleague, someone you might have shared a meal with just hours earlier, has been reduced to scattered remains? For many, the trauma of that day would linger long after the physical cleanup was complete. Nightmares, flashbacks, the constant replay of what-ifs. These became the unwelcome companions of those who witnessed the aftermath of Hellevik's death. The Byford Dolphin incident serves as a stark reminder of the unforgiving nature of the deep sea environment. It highlights the razor-thin margin between life and death that divers navigate every day. But more than that, it underscores the importance of rigorous safety protocols and the devastating consequences when those protocols fail. Amidst the chaos and devastation of the Byford Dolphin incident, one man emerged alive. Martin Saunders, an experienced diver, found himself thrust into a nightmare beyond imagination. As the explosive decompression tore through the chamber, Saunders was violently propelled away, his body battered by the sheer force of the escaping air. The injuries he sustained were severe, leaving him fighting for his life in the immediate aftermath. Can you imagine the pain and confusion Saunders must have felt? One moment preparing for a routine dive, the next surrounded by destruction and the loss of his colleagues. His survival was nothing short of miraculous, but it marked only the beginning of a long and arduous journey. In the days and weeks that followed, Saunders faced an uphill battle. His body, ravaged by the accident, required extensive medical treatment. But the physical wounds were only part of the challenge. The psychological trauma of surviving such a catastrophic event, of losing friends and colleagues in an instant, weighed heavily on his mind. Yet, against all odds, Saunders persevered. His recovery became a testament to human resilience, a beacon of hope in the face of unimaginable tragedy. As news of his survival spread, Saunders' story captivated the diving community and beyond. Here was a man who had stared death in the face and lived to tell the tale. But Saunders' journey didn't end with his physical recovery. The incident left lasting scars, both visible and invisible. How do you move forward after experiencing something so traumatic? How do you reconcile being the sole survivor when others weren't so fortunate? The Byford Dolphin tragedy exposes critical flaws in diving safety protocols. Investigators found that outdated equipment and lax procedures were to blame. Can you imagine the shockwaves this sent through the industry? In response, companies overhauled their safety standards. New interlocking systems were mandated to prevent premature decompression. Risk assessments became routine. Equipment upgrades followed, with fail-safe clamps that couldn't detach while pressurized. But the changes went beyond just hardware. The incident forced a cultural shift in how we approach dangerous work. Today, saturation diving remains risky, but technology is slowly replacing humans in the most perilous tasks. The legacy of Byford Dolphin lives on in every safety briefing, every equipment check. It's a grim reminder that in the unforgiving depths, there's no room for error. One mistake can mean the difference between life and a fate worse than death.